Hey there, movie lovers. Welcome back to Rocky Watches Movies. Today we're stepping into the glamorous and action-packed world of James Bond with the 1971 classic Diamonds Are Forever. This film marked Sean Connery's return to the role of 007, delivering suave charm, thrilling action and plenty of sparkle. But beyond the diamonds, gadgets and villains, there's a treasure trove of fascinating behind-the-scenes stories waiting to be uncovered. So polish up those gems and get ready for 20 things you never knew about Diamonds Are Forever. A plot idea where Gert Frobe returns as Auric Goldfinger's twin from 1964's Goldfinger, seeking revenge for his brother's death was thought of. The story initially centered on a villain abducting submarines using a supertanker. This idea was later recycled for The Spy Who Loved Me. The film was also conceived as a revenge story, with Tracy Bond, played by Diana Rigg, killed off in the pre-credits sequence. However, following George Lazenby's departure from the series, Tracy's murder was moved to the end of On Her Majesty's Secret Service, remaining faithful to Ian Fleming's 1963 novel. And talking of On Her Majesty's Secret Service, it had not performed strongly at the US box office, leaving producers Cubby Broccoli and Harry Saltzman concerned about losing one of their most important markets. When George Lazenby stepped down from the role, they gave serious thought to casting an American as 007. Approaches were made to stars such as Adam West, Clint Eastwood and Burt Reynolds, who were said to have been flattered but maintained that the role should only be played by a British actor. Despite this, John Gavin, best known for playing Sam Loomis in Hitchcock's Psycho, was cast as the new 007, and production was ready to begin. However, David Picker, CEO and president of United Artists, made it clear that the film would only succeed if Sean Connery returned to the role. Picker ultimately agreed to Connery's unprecedented demands, a £1.25 million fee, which he donated to his Scottish International Education Trust charity, a share of the profits, and financing for 2 back-to-back projects of his own choosing. This meant Gavin had to step aside, but Broccoli made sure he still got paid in full. Connery's then record fee for returning as James Bond forced production cutbacks, most notably in the special effects budget. Blofeld's laser satellite was intended to look menacing, but left many viewers unimpressed. Critics often singled out the destruction sequences for their weak effects, though John Barry's rousing score gave the scenes a sense of grandeur. Designer Sir Ken Adam didn't even construct a partial soundstage for the brief shot of Q's lab. Instead, the producers secured permission from Aston Martin Lagonda to film at their facility near Milton Keynes. Another challenge came with the costly attack on Blofeld's oil rig, a temporary structure off Oceanside, California, costing $40,000 a day. When an assistant director set off the explosions too early, multiple cameras luckily caught the action, sparing the production from a very expensive reset. Plenty's demise was filmed at Kirk Douglas's home in Palm Springs, California, but the experience proved far from pleasant for Lana Wood. Her feet had been loosely tied to a cement block at the bottom of the pool, and crew members held a rope across the water to allow her to lift her face and breathe between takes. Unfortunately, the pool had a sloping bottom, causing the block to slip into deeper water with each take. Eventually, it reached a depth from which she could no longer lift her face above the water. Alert crew members quickly jumped in and untied her feet, preventing a real drowning. Wood, a certified diver, remained calm throughout, though she later admitted experiencing a few very uncomfortable moments while unable to breathe. Bond's final escape from the police proved particularly challenging. Bond balances the car on 2 wheels to squeeze through an alleyway, while the pursuing police car crashes attempting the same maneuver. The Mustang's entry into the alleyway was filmed at Universal City Studios car park in California, but it exited onto Fremont Street in Las Vegas on the opposite 2 wheels. By the time this discrepancy was noticed, reshooting the scene was impossible, so linking footage was filmed at Pinewood Studios, showing Bond and Tiffany inside the car as it flips onto the other two wheels, despite this being impossible in such a confined space. Actresses such as Raquel Welch, Faye Dunaway and Jane Fonda were all being considered for the role of Tiffany Case, when a friend of Broccoli's suggested Jill St. John for a smaller part in the film. Her screen test was enough to convince the filmmakers that they had found the perfect Tiffany Case. After previously being a real Bond girl, having dated George Lazenby, she earned the distinction of becoming the first American Bond girl in the series. Dean Martin's uncle, Leonard Barr, enjoyed a brief but memorable role as Shady Tree, a stand-up comic at the White House. He was flanked by two dancing girls known as his Acorns. Both were uncredited in the finished film. But Pat Gill, one of the Acorns, was a well-known Vegas showgirl, whose involvement in the film extended far beyond her brief on-screen appearance. She became the crew's unofficial guide to the hidden side of Las Vegas, taking them to spots only locals knew once filming wrapped for the day. On one occasion, she even led them to a club frequented by the mobsters who controlled the city at the time. The Capos were said to be shocked when James Bond himself dropped in for a drink. Connery greatly enjoyed her company, and when production later moved to Palm Springs, he invited her to come along. Sammy Davis Jr.'s brief cameo was removed from the theatrical release, but later restored on the DVD. The scene shows Davis and Saxby mocking Bond's choice to wear a tuxedo at a Las Vegas casino. The woman in the bikini at the beginning of the film, named Marie, whom Bond persuaded to reveal Blofeld's location, was Denise Perrier, Miss World 1953, the only French woman to have won the title. Car customizer George Barris, who had previously created iconic vehicles such as the Munster's coach and Adam West's Batmobile, constructed two versions of the Batha sub to Ken Adams' specifications. The first was filled with concrete to serve as a makeshift wrecking ball, while the second was built for Charles Gray to climb into, complete with a control panel that gave the illusion of a functioning vehicle, though neither Batho sub was operational. The concrete one was scrapped shortly after filming, but the second endures and continues to appear at James Bond-related events and exhibitions. The subplot involving Blofeld keeping the reclusive magnate Willard White in cold storage was directly inspired by a dream of Cubby Broccoli. In his early Hollywood days, Cubby had befriended the hermit-like billionaire and filmmaker Howard Hughes. During pre-production, Cubby dreamt that he visited Hughes's penthouse and called out to his friend, only for Hughes to turn around and reveal that he was not the real Howard Hughes, but an imposter. This inspired the creation of Willard White, who is abducted and impersonated by Blofeld to use White's organization as a cover for his next scheme of world domination. Hughes was reportedly flattered by Cubby's idea, and supported it by granting unrestricted access to his Las Vegas properties, accepting in return merely a 16mm copy of the finished film. The gripping, revenge-driven pre-credit sequence was loosely inspired by Ian Fleming's 1956 novel Diamonds Are Forever, but filming it proved far from pleasant, as the so-called mud was actually mashed potatoes, which quickly spoiled under the heat of the studio lights. After a long shoot, the studio was stinking. The scene in which Mr. Wint and Mr. Kidd eliminate Dr. Tynan came under particular scrutiny of film censors. The original cut depicted Mr. Wint shoving a scorpion into the Doctor's mouth and letting the efficient killer carry out the deed. Concerned that this version might be too graphic, the filmmakers simultaneously shot a toned-down alternative, in which Mr. Kidd distracts Tynan while Mr. Wint discreetly drops the scorpion down the dentist's shirt. When Lois Maxwell arrived on set to play Miss Moneypenny, it was noted that she had dyed her hair black in preparation for her role in the Agatha Christie adaptation Endless Night, prompting the filmmakers to consider recasting. The problem was resolved, though, by having Moneypenny appear as a customs officer with a hat cleverly concealing Maxwell's hair. Many Bond songs feature risque lyrics without ever becoming overly explicit. Dame Shirley Bassey's Diamonds Are Forever was written in collaboration between John Barry and Don Black, and the song presents diamonds as being more reliable than men, and it also contains subtle allusions to male genitalia, which drew objections from Harry Saltzman. Saltzman had similarly disliked Bassey's Goldfinger, and Cubby Broccoli had to persuade him that the songs were exactly what the films required. Bassey's Diamonds Are Forever is now widely regarded as one of the finest Bond themes. The decision to depict Mr. Wint and Mr. Kidd as two sinister homosexual killers has remained controversial, even though Felix Leiter's belief that they were homosexual was present in Ian Fleming's novel. Bruce Glover and Putter Smith rarely broke character on set, and Glover later recalled that Sean Connery was completely taken in by their performance, genuinely believing they were a couple. Several years after filming, Glover was reportedly flirting with a stewardess on a flight, unaware that Connery was on board. The former Bond actor was said to be very surprised to discover that Glover and Smith had been deceiving him the entire time. Originally, Blofeld was to escape in his Batha sub, with Bond pursuing him by weather balloon to a salt mine in California. There, Bond would chase him through the salt mounds into a factory, where Blofeld tried to kill him in a salt granulator. Bond was to turn the tables, reactivating the machine and quipping to Felix Leiter and Willard White that Blofeld was now the salt of the earth. The sequence was dropped when the salt mine owners refused filming permission, and because it would have greatly extended the running time. Screenwriter Tom Mankiewicz joined after Cubby Broccoli decided British writers struggled to craft convincing American villains. But Cubby disliked his line, "Alimentary, Dr. Leiter," claiming only 2 people in the audience laughed at the premiere, and they were probably doctors. A bigger clash came when Blofeld quoted a French writer with the line, "Humility is the worst form of conceit." Cubby wanted it cut, but Mankiewicz convinced director Guy Hamilton to shoot the scene so the line stayed, angering Cubby. Despite the friction, the film's success secured Mankiewicz the job of writing the next Bond script solo, so long as he toned down his flair for elaborate dialogue. In the opening scene, the man attacked by Bond speaks without moving his mouth, suggesting that he was not originally intended to have any lines. The moon buggy that Bond drives during the desert chase experienced issues with its wheels constantly falling off. In one scene where a car overturns, a detached wheel from the buggy can be seen rolling across the foreground. This film features the highest number of aliases ever used by James Bond in a single movie. He assumes the identities of Peter Franks, Mr. Jones, Klaus Hergesheimer, and Bert Saxby. One scene, cited as unnecessary comic relief, features an elephant walking through a casino and playing a slot machine. In reality, this was a genuine animal performer at Circus Circus named Tanya, who was renowned for performing precisely that trick. And there you have it, folks. You now know a little bit more about Diamonds Are Forever. If you enjoyed the video, which I presume you did as you got this far, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any future videos coming to Rocky Watches Movies. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.